So in this video we're going to take a look at polynomial division. And the first question we're going to look at is we're asked to divide x to the 4 plus 3x cubed plus x squared minus 2, and we're asked to divide that by, so that polynomial by x squared plus x plus 1. Now the way that we're going to do this is we're going to do long division. So we're going to write it up. So x squared plus x plus 1 divided by x to the 4 plus 3x to the 3 plus x squared plus 0x minus 2. Okay, so the reason I've written the 0x is because that's how we do it, right? So we have to write it all in order. And then what we do, how we do this, is we're going to take the first value of the divisor. We're going to divide that into the first value of what we're dividing. So x squared divided by x to the 4 is just going to be x squared. Now, what we then do is we multiply that value, that divided value, by this entire divisor, and we subtract it from the equation. So x squared times x squared is going to be x to the 4. X squared times x is going to be x to the 3. X squared times 1 is going to be x squared. And now when we subtract that entire value, what we're going to be left here with is 0x to the 4. 3x cubed minus x cubed is going to be 2x cubed. X squared minus x squared is going to be 0x squared. Okay, now what we have here, so this is the next value we're going to use, 2x cubed. How many times is 2x cubed, or how many times does x squared go into 2x cubed? Well, 2x, right? Then what we do is subtract this multiplied by this. So 2x times x squared is going to be 2x cubed. 2x times x is going to be 2x squared. And then 2x times 1 is simply just going to be 2x. And now what we do is we're going to bring this down. This value is going to come down here, and it's just going to be plus 0x. So negative 2x cubed minus 2, so 2x cubed minus 2x cubed is going to be 0x cubed. 0x squared minus 2x squared is going to be negative 2x squared. And then here, 0x minus 2x is going to be minus 2x, negative 2x. So now what we do is we go into the next value, right? So we've started off with the x to the 4, then we've gone to the x to the 3, now we're at the x to the 2. So negative 2x squared divided by x squared is just going to be negative 2. Now we subtract this multiplied by this. So negative 2 times x squared is going to be negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times x is going to be negative 2x. And then negative 2 times 1 is going to be negative 2. Now once again we have to drop down this value here. So it's going to be minus 2 there. And then what we get, so negative 2x squared plus 2x squared is going to be 0x squared. Negative 2x plus 2x is going to be 0x. And then negative 2 plus 2 is going to be 0. So that there is going to be our final answer. And what we call this is the quotient, right? So this is called the quotient. And if we were to have any value here, if this was to be, let's say, 8, right? We can't divide 8 by x squared. It's impossible. We can't even divide 8x, right? That means if this was the situation, then it would be what value we have here is our quotient and what value here is our remainder. So that's the first question that we're going to look at. The second one is where we're asked to divide x cubed minus 2x plus a. Well, we're told actually, so we have this polynomial, and we're told that x plus 2 is a factor Okay, we're told that x plus 2 is a factor of this equation, of this polynomial, and they want us, for part I, to find a. So how do we do that? Well, the very first thing that we do is if x plus 2 is a factor, that means that x plus 2 is equal to 0, right? So that means that x is equal to negative 2. So if we are to substitute in x is equal to negative 2 into this equation, it will be equal to 0. So let's go ahead and do that. So negative 2 cubed minus 2 times negative 2 plus a. So we're going to get negative 4 plus a is equal to 0. So a must be equal to 4. That's the first part. The second part is that they want us to find the quadratic factor. So find the quadratic factor. So a factor, this is the form of a factor, okay? Well, what we can go ahead and do is we can divide, because now we know this entire polynomial, we can divide it by x plus 2 to find the third factor, well, the second and third factors. So what we go ahead and do is we just do x plus 2 divided by x cubed plus 0x squared, right? Remember, it has to go in order. So the x to the 3, x to the 2, x to the 1, and then 0. So x cubed plus 0x cubed minus 2x, and then we have a here, plus 4. And they want us to find the quadratic factor. So what we're going to go ahead and do is divide this into that. Okay, so x cubed divided by x is just going to be x squared. That's the first step. The second step is we multiply this divided value, this quotient, but we multiply it by what we have here, by our divisor. So, and we subtract it. So it's going to be x squared times x is going to be x cubed. X squared times 2 is going to be 2x squared. So it's going to be plus 2x squared. And then we subtract that. So it's going to be x cubed minus x cubed. That's just 0x cubed. 0x squared minus 2x squared is going to be negative 2x squared. And then we divide this value by the leading value of the divisor. So negative 2x squared divided by x is going to be negative 2x. And then what we do is we multiply this value by this entire divisor, and we subtract it from what we have. So negative 2x times x is going to be negative 2x squared. Negative 2x times 2 is going to be negative 4x. And now we have to bring this down, as we did in the other question. We have to bring it down, so it's going to be negative 2x there. And what we're going to get, negative 2x squared plus 2x squared is 0x squared. So we're not even going to write that anymore. Negative 2x plus 4x is going to be positive 2x. And now we divide this value by the leading value here. So 2x divided by x is just going to be 2. And then 2 times this, and we subtract it. So 2 times x is going to be 2x. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. We bring down the value once again. 2x minus 2x is 0x. 4 minus 4 is 0. That means that this value here is our quadratic factor. We can see it's quadratic x squared. And that's it for this video.